Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Spinnaker Spoilercast. I'm Billy Gillane, joined today by
Henry Ingraham.
Henry.
I know. I don't know why I use my actual name. I always use a nickname. It says official. I don't know why. It's kind of came to me, but yeah.
Well, all right. I guess we're joined by Henry instead of Hank today. So it's October. It's that time of year. We're talking about Halloween, not the holiday, but the movie Halloween in 2018's
Well,
version.
Halloween's the best holiday.
Of course,
no
yeah.
doubt, easily, and they have a really good movie franchise to go along with it. So.
They have a couple of really good movies. I don't know if I'd say the whole franchise.
Well, I think if you like cheesy, corny slasher flicks, Halloween is that, and Friday the 13th are, in my opinion, like the two top dogs. Nightmare on Elm Street's good. There's Leprechaun's funny. What else is there? There's Candyman, but I think he only had did he have more than one movie?
You're asking the wrong person. I am not the horror knower dude. That came out really weird. But we're talking about Halloween today, the 2018 Halloween, not to be confused with the 1978 movie of the same name. This is a sequel. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of do spoiler-free thoughts on it, and then we're going to get into spoilers. So, Henry, what did you think of this movie?
Well, first off, I'm going to start by saying that for those who don't know what the deal with this movie is, this is not a remake. This is not a reboot of the Halloween movies. This is a direct sequel to the original Halloween movie, the 1978 Halloween. It ignores all the sequels and obviously the Rob Zombie remakes, which aren't bad. They're not great. They're as good as you think they'd be. But this movie takes place basically in modern day. I guess modern day.
I think it is 40 years after when the movie takes place.
It's literally supposed to be I forget what Jamie Lee Curtis's. I always forget what her character's name is. Laurie. Yeah, it's Laurie from the first movie, and now she's a grandma. But we'll get into that. So as a whole, I went into this movie not trying to be too optimistic, or not trying to be too excited, because it's obviously it's a trying to revive an old franchise of 80s slasher films, which modern day they usually tend to not do too great when they try to bring that back. But this one, it really surprised me, and it's probably one of the only movies I think I've walked out to this year, especially for the spoiler cast that we've done, that I feel is I didn't feel really torn about it. I just genuinely had a fun time, and I really enjoyed the movie.
No, this is a fun movie, right? I think you talk about the 80s slasher, it balances well between being like that 80s slasher fun kind of film to watch, but also kind of being a movie that modern day audiences can find entertaining.
Yeah, I wasn't I didn't find the humor super cringy or anything.
I thought it was funny for the most part.
Yeah, it was actually, I think it was a little funnier than the original movie, because the original movie it's not too much horror.
I don't remember too much of the humor from the original movie.
Yeah, I think they kind of they definitely did a little change of that. But then also what I was surprised I didn't realize until I saw in the credits is that one of the writers was Danny McBride.
Yeah, I heard you say something about that. I had it that Danny McBride.
Yeah, and I looked it up and I was like, yes, it is that Danny McBride, and which makes sense because the director of the film, whose name I'm blanking on, him and Danny McBride have previously worked on Vice Principals and Eastbound and Down, two really good HBO shows, and they have a good chemistry, and I think it really showed through on this movie.
Absolutely not. You could definitely see the comedy in this movie. It definitely worked. It didn't feel like it took away from the actual movie.
Yeah.
I wouldn't describe this as a comedy, but it didn't take away from the rest.
No, it's definitely not like a comedy horror like a Zombieland or something like that. It was a straight up slasher horror movie with the big bad being all serious and stuff, and with a little bit of comedy sprinkled here and there, a couple jokes. Not even, I wouldn't even say 20% of the movie has comedy. It's just little bits here and there that are funny.
But when it does comedy, it does it well.
Yeah.
So with that being said, before we kind of get into spoilers, we're going to give our grades on it on a scale of 1 to 5. What would you give it, Hank?
It's hard because I'm a big horror and especially slasher buff. And Halloween, the original one, is probably my favorite out of all of them.
Yeah.
So from my standpoint, I'd give it like a 4.5 because I genuinely I had fun with it. I think I liked it more than I liked all the other Halloween sequels and remakes.
I will say that, yes.
Yeah, it was a good follow up to the original, and I guess from like if I looked at it from like a critic standpoint, I'd maybe give it like a 3.5.
Yeah.
Maybe a high 3 because it definitely has some flaws, but they're very unnoticeable if you're just going to it for a fun time.
Yeah, no, the flaws are definitely smaller in this movie than they are in the movies that we've reviewed in the past, like Slender Man.
Yeah,
talk about a bad horror movie. But I would probably give this movie. I'm gonna lean towards a 4. It's between a 3.5 and a 4, but I'm gonna give it that 4. Just because I had a good time with this. I'm not a huge horror person. Like when I was a kid, I didn't really watch any horror movies. If we put on a horror movie, I'd cover my eyes. I was that kind of kid.
Yeah.
But this movie for me, it works. It's definitely the best Halloween movie since the original. And I had a great time with this. So I give it a solid 4 out of 5. So we're gonna go ahead and get into the spoiler section of this review. So if you haven't seen this movie, click away. I don't know why you'd be watching this because it's titled Spoilercast, but spoiler alert from here on out. So, spoilers. The ending. Terrific.
Oh, we're going to skip straight to the ending?
Well, I mean, it's spoilers, so I just...
okay.
It's spoilers, so the ending, guys.
It ends very strong, which is usually a big problem with, especially modern horror, is like usually the ending, it just ends up being like it's either like super cheesy or super predictable or whatever it is. And this ends... I did not expect this kind of ending. I semi did. I expected the like spoilers. There's an end credit like small teaser. It's not even like,
I wouldn't even call it. It's not even a scene. It's just you hear Michael Myers breathing.
Yeah, it confirms that they're if this does well, which it definitely will. The theater was packed.
Yeah.
For opening night, and it was. It is basically setting up like, there's going to be another one at some point. Ending, simple thing. Jamie Lee Curtis thinks she kills Michael Myers, and in a really cool way. Yes. I liked the way that they possibly killed him. I mean, obviously not, but
I have no idea how he would possibly survive that, but it's Michael Myers, so you roll with it. So we're gonna actually say what happens. So what happens is Laurie, her character, after the events of the first Halloween, kind of secluded herself in this house in the middle of nowhere with a bunch of weapons and traps and security precautions because she always thought Michael would come back, or she intended to kill Michael. And we learned the entire thing was just a giant trap to get Michael there and then kill him. Yeah. That's what the entire endgame was. She knew, like, she had always had it in, like, the back of her head. Like, she knew Michael was going to get out at some point and come after her. And he does, obviously. And ensues one of probably the best, like, just back and forth between, like, characters, especially at the end. And for a horror slasher film, like it's played, the way they play with the idea of what a slasher villain is in this is really cool, especially like because they towards the end when they finally like trap Michael and they kill him, it's they do this nice little like switch where they like switch the perspective of like Michael is the victim in a sense. Not in the sense of, like, they try to, like, give him sympathy or anything. Like, it's just the camera, like, makes him appear to be It's a cat and mouse game, and then they switch it so that he becomes the mouse and that Laura becomes the cat, basically.
Yeah, and it's done really well, and it gets, there's a lot of, what they do it a bit in this movie. It's not like Force Awakens when it's like paying way too much homage. That's
not homage. It's straight up just copy
and paste. But what this movie does is there's a lot of like referential, there obviously is material because there's returning characters, but there's a lot of referential like shots,
nods kind of thing.
Yeah. The title scene is similar to the first movie where it has the pumpkin and it has the logo and it zooms in on the pumpkin's eye, but this one is reversed where like it's a rotted pumpkin and they throw it in like super fast reverse and it grows back into being like what it was originally, and but it's still zooming.
Which I think is telling of the movie too. It's kind of
it's the like revival of this dead franchise. Yeah. Which is a really clever like little thing, and I like that. And there's a bunch of shots. There's a shot of someone with their where it's just they're in the shadows, but it's just their head that appears. And then there's a shot of Laurie falls out a window. And she lands on the ground just like Michael does in the first movie. And when Michael looks down at her, she's gone. And there's a lot of like cool little like if you've seen the first movie, you love the first movie, you'll be like, oh, I remember that from the first movie. Like there's just cool stuff like that.
Yeah, no, they definitely do a good job, I think, of paying homage and respecting the original movie. But kind of going off of this, one of the things I think this movie does really well is the characters, the main characters, I should say.
Yeah.
So Laurie, her daughter, and her granddaughter, they do those three characters really well, in my opinion.
I like Laurie in this. I like her granddaughter. The mom/daughter, the one in between, she's okay. I think she. Well, actually, I really like the final bit of her when they're
when Michael pushes the counter over and then she's like crying about it and then she just like gets a serious face and shoots him. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I like that. That was a cool little like.
She played him.
So I guess more context. So Laurie, she raised her daughter to basically be able to fight against Michael, and it ruined her relationship with her daughter, and like
her daughter got taken away from her at 12.
Yeah, like child services took her away.
Because she raised her so like because she raised her in the same house that we were talking about earlier, the one that's like excluded. Yeah, and all she trained her to do was basically like defend herself. That's all she was focused on.
Yeah. Well, she also trained her she basically trained her not just to defend herself, but to kill Michael. Yeah. Like that's what their goal wasn't to defend themselves; it was to trap and kill Michael. Was like what they trained for. But either way, so she becomes distant with her daughter, and so we cut to obviously modern day, and her and her daughter are not really talking to each other, but the granddaughter, she wants to talk with her grandma, but she isn't like everybody treats her grandma like she's just some crazy old lady who's like scared of like the boogeyman is what they call him.
So I will say there's one thing I will talk about complaint wise. They didn't I don't think make that relationship clear enough for me, because it's almost like I get the impression that they haven't talked to their grandma since she was 12 years old. Yeah. That's the impression they give. But then she comes in and then she talks with the granddaughter and the daughter like they just talked last week.
Yeah, they it's a weird like they don't explain like how Laurie and her daughter like got back into like connection, I guess. Yeah. Because it's not like you take your child away in child services. I don't think you get. Yeah, I don't think you even know where they go.
Because like she even has a line where it's like where she's talking to the reporters and they're asking her, "When did you get to see your daughter?" And she's like, "Never," or something along those lines. When did you get custody of your daughter back? I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't. But when your daughter becomes 18, she's welcome to find her mom. Maybe that's what she did, but whatever.
Initially, you get the impression that they haven't seen each other since she was 12 years old. And then when she's actually brought into the fold with the other two characters, it's like they just saw each other like last week or 2 weeks ago. It's like her granddaughter knows her very well, but it's like I didn't think these two people had ever met. You'd think there'd be a different kind of relationship between them than I would think. I
would think like the mom would just not like the mom hates her mom, like genuinely does not like. I mean, but she still like loves her mom. It's her mom. Yeah. There's a definite big distance between them, but it's a bit of a plot hole, and no, I wouldn't say a plot hole. It's a bit of like, it's weird. Like one line, we could have used like one line just to explain that, but it's
something that could have been done a little better.
I wanted more information about like it's mentioned that Laurie was married and divorced twice, right? Like what? How does like when did she marry the second guy? I want to know is like. How do you marry this crazy lady who lives in the wood by herself?
It's like, I feel like she'd have to like let her guard down to some extent to get married at all.
I guess.
Nonetheless.
Yeah, that's a bit like we never get any reference of who the two husbands are or anything like that.
It's fine. You don't necessarily need that in this movie, but it'd be nice to know.
Just a little bit of background on how Laurie got to this point would be nice. But I think let's be honest, this is a slasher movie. They're like, let's jump to when Michael escapes and we start killing people.
Exactly, and I think that's a great segue. This is a slasher movie, so I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the violence.
Oh God!
And the just everything around the killing and all that. So go ahead.
I mean, I'll admit, in my little messed up mind, I love a good violent antagonist, and Michael does not hold back in this movie. He gets some really graphic kills.
Mm-hmm.
Not okay, so I wouldn't say like really. There's a good balance between like subtle kills and then like straight up smashing a guy's head in.
Yeah, it's not like
completely.
Saw graphic. It's not that.
No, it's not like that.
Graphic.
It's very old school slasher where
Mm-hmm.
it's like they're like some of the kills are on scene, some are off scene.
Yeah.
And then like someone stumbles upon the dead body, which is a nice homage to the first one, which is like how most the dead bodies are found.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is like someone just walks across it kind of deal.
And it's done really effectively, both
Yeah.
when it's done off camera and on camera.
Yeah.
The killing is done really effectively. I mean, I don't think there was any death that I was just kind of like, that I didn't love. And I know that sounds kind of weird to say.
Yeah, it's weird to say, but this is a slasher movie. This is what we go.
Yeah.
This is what people go to see.
This is the type of stuff you go to see, and it was all done really well. I mean, I think the best one for me, the funniest one, was when the drunk dude that was walking home with the granddaughter.
Oh yeah.
And when he died, that was probably my favorite one.
Oh,
Because I was laughing before because he was so funny. He
Yeah.
was one of the funniest characters.
Yeah, and the setup between how how he sees Michael for the first time is I like that. That's a real, which brings me to a point that I really liked about this movie, and it's similar. Like the Rob Zombie ones did it pretty good, but this one does it really well, and there are some times when you see Michael, but he's not the main focus, and it's like one of the victims will be walking into frame and just walking and doing their own thing, and you'll see like Michael in the background like killing someone or just
I saw that. There's like a couple of shots like that
where it's like, and it's in no way like the focus. It's just like if you're paying attention, you'll see it, and I love that. I love the subtle like where like he could be there, he could not be there kind of thing.
I forget exactly where it is in the movie, but there's a scene where there's two people talking in a house, and there's a window behind them. And if you look in the window, it's only like 2 quick seconds. You see somebody just getting punched or something, and it looks like it's...
That's so it's in the it's when he first gets back his mask. It's before he gets back his mask is when they're
in the gas station.
It's in their gas station or auto shop, whatever. No, it was a gas station, and one of the victims like walks up to talk to the like the whatever attendant, and it shows like in the background you see like in a small window you see Michael just punching a guy's face in, or I think he was beating him with a hammer, but whatever. It was like. It was very subtle, and I like. There's a lot of shots like that in this.
Yeah, no, that like when I noticed, I was like, oh, that's really really cool and really well done. Some other stuff I like with the shots with Michael Myers when they're in the final house, or not the final house, when they're in the house where the girl was babysitting.
Yeah.
And the cop is in there, and he's looking at the body of the girl that Michael Myers killed.
Yeah.
And you see Laurie outside, and she looks in the other window, and Michael's in the other window. I loved that shot.
Yeah.
And then she shoots the mirror. I loved all that.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done.
I like there is a beautiful like what was it like 2-3 minute long take in this movie.
Were you talking about the one where like he kills the mom? That's probably about a minute and a half, 2 minutes.
It's a full like tracking shot. Well, it tracks Michael and then like it stops on like a window and like it stops on a window like and there's a victim like in the window and it just. Like Michael walks up behind her, and it's a great shot. And there's a bunch of stuff like that. There's I can't even like think of one off the top of my head. I like the closet, not the closet scene that's in the trailer. The one where like Laurie is walking around her house and she's looking in the closet. I like that because you know where he was.
That whole last sequence of this film with those two was done terrifically. And the scene you're talking about where she goes upstairs. She thinks he's in the closet. He's not in the closet. They do a really good job.
Which is a nod to the first movie where he hides in like pretty much the same kind of closet.
Yeah. Also, that house is really creepy, man.
She
has a room that literally had nothing in it except for a ticking clock. Why would you do that? That's like terrifying.
She has literally dedicated her life to killing Michael.
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I get it now because the entire house is just a giant trap
It's
to
a
catch
whole
Michael Myers.
like every door in the house has like these automatic gates that lock behind them, or well, she hits a button and they
it's
lock.
Like a metal gate closes
and
down.
there's hidden compartments, and she's got like a rack full of guns, and it's really like. It's what the killer would have, and that's what I really liked about that.
Dude. Like, you see just how insane she's been driven by Michael Myers, and this kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? This vendetta almost.
Yeah.
For 40 years.
I understand. Like, so that's a bit weird. It's like come on, it's been 40 years. Like, good, come on, give it up. But I get it to an extent. But I guess so it's mentioned a couple times in this, and it's kind of like the general consensus of what like Michael Myers is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. He's supposed to be like a physical representation of pure evil.
Yeah.
And so it's like I guess like the goal is just to destroy pure evil. I don't know, like what the.
Yeah. So that brings me kind of to a part, probably the biggest part of the movie that I didn't like, and that's the doctor guy.
Yeah.
He just felt like he was shoehorned into this movie because you're getting this great story of Laurie and her family and trying to overcome this 40-year issue she's had with Michael Myers, and all of a sudden you get this doctor guy thrown in. He's giving us the philosophy of Michael Myers.
Yeah,
I don't want the philosophy of Michael Myers. He's a slasher. He kills people. That's all I need to know.
Yeah.
So it seems like a wasted part of the movie to me.
I think it's supposed to be because what is the doctor's name from the first movie? Is it Landis?
It's something with an L.
Yeah.
Loomis, something like that.
I can never remember. It's supposed to be. He's supposed to be a spin on him. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I'm pretty sure the actor for him has died. So
there's even a line that I think Laurie says. It's like, "Oh, you're just the new
you're the new that guy." Yeah. Which is true. He's supposed to be like him, but whereas the first guy was. He realizes what Michael is, and he's like, we have to destroy Michael Myers because he's pure evil. Yeah. Whereas this guy is like fascinated with Michael Myers and the fact that he is so evil that he doesn't have any form of like interaction with anyone. And it's I guess it's supposed to be like, because that doctor, as you'll find out in the movie, he turns out to be bad.
Turns out to be batshit crazy.
Well, he's crazy. I don't know. He's like
bat crap crazy. Sorry.
Yeah, he's really crazy.
Yeah.
And he, I don't know if he's really okay. He's obsessed with Michael.
It's an obsession that drives him to go almost insane.
Yeah,
by the end of the movie.
And I love his whole thing is all he wants to hear Michael say like one word. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what it is. He just wants to hear Michael talk once because Michael, in his 40 years of being locked up, not to mention the time that he was locked up before he escaped the first time.
Yeah.
He's never said one word to anyone, and it becomes a thing in the movie, and it's
even when he's in the cop car with the granddaughter and Michael Myers, and the granddaughter's like, "If you stop and let me out, I'll tell you what he said to me. He said a word to me." I'm like, that's the biggest trap ever. But this guy's so into it and so invested in this that he
so obsessed.
Believes her.
Yeah,
and for me, the character didn't work with the rest of the movie. Yeah, it just fell out of place.
He does a bit. He gets easily the coolest death in the whole movie.
Oh yeah, when his face just gets stomped into mush.
He gets like not curb stomp, but he definitely gets like Michael's sheer strength and mass just drops on his head.
That was good.
There's so many like good like great like kills in this movie.
Mm-hmm. I don't think there's a single bad kill. Like I said earlier, I don't think there's a single bad kill.
It's the class and nothing. A few. I wouldn't say over the top, but like most of him is like his MO, where it's like he stabs them with a knife, or he beats their head in with a hammer, or he like snaps a couple necks.
Yeah, most of them are variations of the similar thing.
Yeah, he's a very simple like Michael Myers has a very simple like repertoire. And that's like his thing. I think it's like physical strength and stabbing objects and a couple of blunt objects.
He strangles a couple of people. He strangles that kid, and then he strangles the dad.
Yeah.
Which they straight up killed a kid like on camera. I was not expecting that. I don't know. They showed the kids dying, but they didn't show his dad dying.
When the kid? Oh, that's right. He straight up snaps that kid's neck. I forgot about that.
He straight up just like strangles him, and then just
Yeah.
And he's like 11 years old.
And the dad he broke the dad's neck too.
He broke that dude's neck.
He never actually finished. He never actually finishes the strangle. He always starts with the strangle, and then he's like snaps, and he does this multiple times throughout the movie.
Just gets impatient.
And that's another great homage to the first movie is he impales a guy on the wall with a knife, and again. Same thing as the first movie. The logistics of that makes no sense. A knife that small would not be able to hold a person's full body weight on the wall.
It's all about being perfectly balanced. Did you watch Infinity War?
I guess
perfectly balanced.
Michael Myers versus Thanos, 2020.
That's the movie we need. All right. So, is there any other negatives that stick out to you in this film? Because for me, like I said, the Doctor was like the biggest negative, and then there was also a couple of scenes.
Oh, I wanted the boyfriend of the granddaughter to get it, and he gets there's no consequence for his actions, and I don't want to spoil it because I think it's an interesting little like twist in the movie.
This is a spoiler cast.
Oh, you're right. Well, I mean, we don't want to like ruin every little bit, but well, I mean, we already are. We ruined all the kills. I mean, who cares? Like, anyway, the boyfriend of the granddaughter cheats on her. No, he doesn't cheat on her. He gets drunk, kisses another girl at a party. She gets mad. She walks off.
Throws her phone and like cheese dip.
Yeah, he throws her phone and cheese dip, and I'm like, that's just cruel.
Like, why?
That's what like. The kiss was one thing, but you throw your phone and the cheese dip was like, really, man?
Dude, she even just looks at him like, really, dude?
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, he gets no like. I was hoping he would die at some point, but he doesn't.
Yeah, right. Like he's the one character
he doesn't show up after that scene.
That sort of comeuppance.
His buddy eats it, which his buddy was creepy and weird too. But
his buddy was also drunk as a mother.
Well, I think that might have been a lie. I think he was just trying to make it seem. I think that was the point. He was trying to make it seem like he wasn't. He was unintentionally being creepy, which is a nice. I like that. It was like I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah, no, but he should have gotten something.
Yeah, the boyfriend gets nothing. The nice funny dad of the granddaughter, he eats it really hard, and I felt bad. Yeah. That was one of the only kills I felt like really bad. I was like, oh, what, you gonna kill him?
Yeah, like I think he might have been the only death that I was like, oh, don't kill him.
Yeah,
but
there's always got to be that one character. But I was kind of like, actually, you know what I really liked? I really liked the babysitter. Who's best friends with the granddaughter. Yeah. I liked her. Her little relationship with the little kid she's babysitting.
That little kid was the funniest part of the movie.
That kid was hilarious, and luckily he doesn't die.
Yeah, no, well, and at least we don't see it.
No. They show a quick shot of him like in the cop car with like a coat over.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He ran away.
I missed that.
Yeah. Michael only got her and her boyfriend because of course a boyfriend, she invites her boyfriend over. Yeah. They're like, oh, you want to get high? And we can't even say what she says.
This is like abracadabra or something like that.
Yeah, no, that I was saying like what she told the boyfriend they were gonna do. Because he gets the tattoo and she's like, oh, you were so gonna.
He gets the tattoo of the date.
Yeah, he just gets a tattoo of October 31st, 2018. I'm like, that's a weird tattoo. And it's just
the day that They apparently got it on for the first time, or were supposed to.
I don't know if that was... No, because I think they were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah, but the way they implied is like this is the first time they were going to do something.
Oh, were they?
That's how I read it.
I thought he just got the tattoo. That's weird. I don't know why he got the tattoo. It's a weird tattoo that made no sense.
Probably got it pretty cheap, all things considered, for this or just that.
I don't know. It probably cost him like $40 maybe.
Yeah, so I mean,
small tattoo.
It's a deal. That's why.
Yeah.
But one other, it's a small issue I have with the film is Judy Greer, who played the mom. Mm-hmm. There were a couple scenes, one in particular that stood out to me, where it just sounded like she was reading off of a script.
She's not one of my favorite actresses.
Yeah.
I think she's okay. I just felt like she was pretty out of place in this movie.
Yeah.
She's believable in like the sense that she kind of looks like Jamie Curtis. Mm-hmm. But not like crazy amount.
The one scene that really stood out to me, I think she was talking to her daughter about her mom, and she's just like explaining what her mom is, and she's like using all these big words, and the way she's saying it very monotone. It's like she sounds straight up like she's just reading a script.
Yeah, she wasn't of all the performances, she was probably my least favorite.
Yeah.
She was still okay, but she wasn't.
I'm gonna say for the most part she was fine, but there were just a few scenes that it really
all
around
around the performances were great. I liked pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
The guy who plays Michael, whatever his name is, and it's I'll talk about it afterwards, but it's he did a really good job of like, I mean, obviously he doesn't say anything, but he does a lot of great like body. He does a lot of physical acting, and he's really good at it.
Which, I mean, he does a lot with, considering you don't ever see his face and you don't ever hear him talk. He does a lot. He does it well.
There's a lot of, like, I just liked every second he was on screen.
He has a presence about him.
Yeah, the guy was definitely really good at it.
No, I think he did a good job.
But what I was going to say is a weird thing in this movie is, for some reason in the credits, he's not credited as being called Michael Myers. He's credited as The Shape.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because I looked it up. For the first movie, he's still credited as Michael Myers.
I don't know why.
I don't know why they called him The Shape. We were theorizing, like, does this mean that this isn't Michael Myers? Maybe it's someone else pretending to be Michael, but then everybody knows what Michael Myers looks like. So obviously it's Michael Myers.
It's his brother Mitchell Myers.
Yeah, his twin brother.
Yeah. But anything else you want to add to that, man?
No, I mean, if you like horror, if you like Halloween, if you like slasher movies, go see it. You're probably already going to go see it because I think it's getting good reviews all around.
Yeah, no, it's getting really good
reviews.
Like,
obviously, it's not like the critics aren't like praising it.
It's got like an 83-84% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not a bad.
I think like Metacritic has it at like high 6 point something or whatever,
which is surprising to me.
I know that's a little low. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's easily it's like a B movie simply because the fact that it's a slasher horror movie.
Yeah.
Like I can't think of a slasher horror movie that's like a 10 out of a 10.
I'm about to say I don't like. There's no such thing as like even the classic slasher movies. Yeah. I don't think there's any of them that like you look at and say those are like 10 out of 10.
I was watching a bit of the original Halloween, just a couple scenes, and there's definitely some cheesy like weird stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's shot weird in some places, and I'm like, yeah, this definitely has its flaws, but I still love it for what it is.
I'm about to say you still love it for what it is. Slasher films, you know what you're getting out of most of the time, and when it's done well, you can forgive a lot of the issues it has. And this movie does it well, and the original Halloween did it well.
Yeah, it's. I mean, if you want to watch the whole franchise, feel free. I recommend it. But if you just want to watch the first one and this one,
which is what I recommend.
Yeah, which is like they're all you need basically, unless you want to get down the whole rabbit hole of all the sequels. Which I give Halloween 3 a chance. It's obviously it's a different concept, but I think it's a decent little spin on it. That's just my opinion. But
yeah, I'm not a big fan of anything except for the original one. Mm-hmm. And then when I found out that this was like a direct sequel to the original, that made me a lot happier.
I was before going into it, I was thinking of that, and I was like, so a direct sequel is an interesting. It's kind of like Jurassic World, except for there's none in between that. Mm-hmm. It's a sequel, but it's also like a reboot. But this is a sequel reboot, but it also ignores all the other.
Yeah, to me it feels more like Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah,
as far as how
it's very much like that.
How it goes in terms of how it's a sequel to the original, but also it sets up.
Yeah, that's the best comparisons probably for that. Probably one of the major problems I have with this movie is the title, because it's just called Halloween.
Yeah,
and I'm like, because it's one of those things of like Hollywood doesn't want to call it like Halloween 2 or give it a subtitle or something because they want people who haven't seen the original, which makes no sense because unless you've seen the original, you're not going to get a lot of this stuff in this.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of references to it, and obviously you need to know Michael's backstory and Laurie's backstory to really get.
They do some good like fill in the blank stuff, but it's very much like if you've seen the original, you're gonna get a lot more out of it. Yeah,
I mean, it's one of those, obviously if you've seen the original, you're gonna get more out of it, but I think you can go into this without having seen the first one and still understand everything that's going on.
Oh, for sure.
So
they especially in like the first like 30 minutes is a good like mix of like giving the backstory and introducing like what the characters are.
Like the first act is phenomenal, the third act is phenomenal. The issues for the most part are in the second act.
Which is kind of bad, or not bad, but it's because a lot of the good like kills are in the middle.
You know, there's still really good stuff in the second act. It's still a good second act.
I mean, it's still good all around.
It's just not great. Like the first act and the third act are great.
Yeah.
And if the second act was a little better, I'd probably be giving this movie
I think that's how
it's
the thing of like most movies are nowadays. It's like the middle is definitely like falls.
There's some movies that are great, and then they'll collapse in the third act. Like for me, Venom, the third act was just what.
Yeah.
With the whole fight with those two.
So Venom's like the opposite, where it's really strong in the middle, and then the first and the third act are pretty weak.
Yeah. So we're not. This isn't a review of Venom. We already did that.
Yeah.
But so anything else to add before we wrap it up here, man?
I mean, it's October. It's Halloween. Go see it.
It's Halloween. Go see Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is probably the perfect movie for this month.
Yeah.
So, this is a really good movie, Halloween 2018. Check it out if you haven't. We both like it. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great Halloween. Yeah.